Welcome to Smart in the City, the Babel podcast where we bring together top actors in the smart city arena, sparking dialogues and interactions around the stakeholders and themes most prevalent for today's citizens and tomorrow's generations. I am your host, Tamlin Shimizu, and I hope you will enjoy this episode and gain knowledge and connections to accelerate the change for a better urban life. Smart in the City is brought to you by Babel Smart Cities. We enable processes from research and strategy development to co-creation and implementation. To learn more about us, please visit the Babel platform at babel-smartcities.eu. So today, let's travel to one of the most unique regions in the world, and we're going back to Copenhagen. So today we are talking about the region of Greater Copenhagen in another collaborative episode with Copenhagen Capacity. So why is this region so unique? Well, in case you didn't know, it's actually a region spanning two countries, southern Sweden and eastern Denmark. So I want to speak to you all about all the opportunities and challenges that this provides. And for that, we have two very wonderful guests. The first you might know for the OGs of the podcast, or if you've gone back and listened to the very first episode, we have Rikke Petersen. She's the head of Green Transition team at Copenhagen Capacity. Welcome back, Rikke.
Thank you very much, Tamlin. It's a pleasure.
Yes, always a pleasure to speak to you, and especially on the podcast. And next we have a new guest. Her name is Ellen Cork. She's a project manager in strategic and partnerships and city development at E.ON. Welcome, Ellen.
Thanks a lot. Nice to see you here.
Yes, nice to have you with us. So we always get started with a little bit of a teaser, a warm-up into the interview. So I wanted to ask Rikke, of course we have to revisit some of our past episode glory. So you were one of the very first guests on the podcast over a year ago now. What memory do you have of our first recording together?
I have only good memories, Tamlin. It was a good discussions. Discussions. It was a new experience. We never did this kind of activity before, and I think the result coming out of that was pretty good also. And it was just a good experience and a new thing to do for CopCap also, to do this podcast and have this kind of active environment together.
Yeah, it was a new experience for me too. It's our very first episode, and now I'm at, I don't know, reaching 40 episodes now. So, not so fresh anymore. Got a few more episodes under my belt. And Ellen, I wanted to ask you. I know you live in Malmö, not Copenhagen. So why Malmö?
Well, I moved to Skåne from a bit more north in Sweden. It's not north, it's still south of Stockholm, but when I started to study, and I have always loved Skåne. It's really a great place to be. And quite soon I moved to Malmö, and it's a really vibrant city with a lot of different nationalities, and it's innovative and it's fun, and it has the ocean, and I can continue. It's a really great city to be in.
Yeah, I really love it too when I go and visit. And it's really well connected to Copenhagen, obviously. So a great place to be. So I want to dig more into this Greater Copenhagen whole aspect, this very unique region. But first, I want to maybe introduce you guys a little bit more. Ellen, maybe can you please tell our listeners maybe a bit about your background? What led you to Greater Copenhagen into your current role?
Yeah, well, as I said, I moved to Greater Copenhagen to study, and I've been living here since. I've been working in different companies. I've been working as a consultant, and I've been working at the city of Malmö as well. So I've been in the public sector for quite some time. And already then we started to collaborate within Greater Copenhagen. And then since I've been at E.ON, we have been involved in different networks and projects and different activities around Greater Copenhagen. So that is...
Maybe for the listeners who don't know E.ON as well, can you explain a little bit about what you do?
Yeah, so E.ON is it's a global company, of course. It's German-based, but here in Sweden and in the part of E.ON where I sit in infrastructure solutions, we own and operate the district heating grids, and we also have a lot of products regarding solar, batteries and storage, and also charging e-vehicles, transport, e-mobility. So we have quite a big spread of products, and we also are the energy company of the city of Malmö, for example, and also operating in Stockholm and Norrköping and Örebro, so other cities in Sweden as well. And in other parts of E.ON, we own the electricity grid as well.
Okay, yeah, very interesting. And Rikke, can you, for those who haven't listened to the first episode, can you please introduce yourself a bit and your role and your background?
Yes, certainly. Maybe I'll start with introducing Copenhagen Capacity. We are the investment promotion agency of the Greater Copenhagen Region. So we promote internationally towards international businesses to come and establish in the region, basically. So that's what we do. We have certain sectors that we focus on: life science, tech, and green transition. So we are scouting for great companies out in the world within these three sectors and try to attract them to here and to establish in our great region. My background is definitely, you can say, international. It's commercial. I've studied in both Aarhus, which is the second biggest town in Denmark, and Copenhagen. And I've lived and worked and studied in Vienna, where I lived for 7 years. I also lived for some time in Germany. So there's something with German and Germany for me as well. But I really enjoy working internationally, and I've always done so in different commercial departments. And what really motivates me is the meeting with people from all over the world, and try to help them, assist them, and try to help them to connect to others in order to make them doing good or have them getting more engaged here in the region.
Absolutely. I think we share a lot of those commonalities in wanting to connect and talk to people. So thanks again for coming on. Rikke, I want to explain maybe to our listeners a little bit more about how Greater Copenhagen actually works. It's very unique that it sits in between these two countries. Like, how does that functionally work, and how might it actually provide more opportunities also?
I mean, it's not something you're part of a greater or of this business region, but you don't really feel that on a daily basis. But we know we're one business region, and we're two countries, and we are 85 municipalities and 4 regions, I think, and 4.4 million inhabitants. So there is something about this density in this relatively small area. How does Greater Copenhagen work? We know that almost 10,000 Swedes are crossing the bridge every day. I think that's about 5,000 the other way around. So there's a lot of traction between the two regions on a daily basis. So we need each other. We work together. We share the same airport. We shop in the different countries, and so there's a lot of collaboration, a lot of interaction, a lot of business, and a lot of you can say opportunities coming out of this collaboration or this region.
Yeah, absolutely. What about in your experience, Ellen? You've been working in Greater Copenhagen now for quite some time. Do you think it provides more opportunities for your company to have this like split between the two countries?
I haven't that much experience in working in other regions, obviously, but I think for us, it's really inspirational being in this region in Skåne and being close to Copenhagen, because it's really big ambitions, both from the Copenhagen side and also in Malmö, but in other parts of the region as well, regarding sustainability. So it's, they are really high ambitions, and that sets the direction for us as a company as well to really increase our ambitions. And that's been very helpful for us. We have been using this area as a testbed for new solutions for quite some time now, and it's been successful for us. We have developed products here that is going on export now to other parts of Europe, and I think that it's the dynamic between the countries in the region and the innovative edge here that is one of those, the reason for that. So we have quite long experience in working together in collaboration with, of course, City of Malmö, but also with other municipalities in the region. But then also at the same time, E.ON has quite different businesses in Sweden and in Denmark. So we don't have the same operations really. In Denmark, for example, we focus a lot on biogas that we don't do in Sweden. So they are a bit different as well. And there are different regulations in the countries, even though we are very close.
Yeah, and that might lead into it, that might also be a challenge, right? So for companies, for example, who are looking to set up in Greater Copenhagen, what are the challenges that they should expect to face? Rikke, do you want to touch on that?
The challenges are, if I can just also briefly touch on another important thing is that we have this Greater Copenhagen Committee. We have an organization looking at making the infrastructure between the two countries more smooth, or to extend all the time, and also to look at the labor market. How do we do this more smooth? How to work in two different countries? Because what about tax? What about all other structural things? And what about? But there's so many examples of how it's working really well and how we are connecting together. Industries like the life science industry. We have a very strong cluster in the region called the Medical Valley Alliance, where you see the Swedish industry working very close together with the Danish industry. I think that's quite unique. And also at the moment, again, it's being discussed that we need a metro between the two cities in order to have the labor force going smooth, but also because the train connection between Denmark and Sweden is very dense, and there's so much going on that line of trains. So we need another connection in order to be more flexible. But coming back to your question, I think, of course, there are challenges, and we are still two different countries, and we also, even though we speak more or less the same language, we are different, and we have a different business culture, and we are different as human beings. So that can be a challenge, but I think it's on a micro level, so no big deal.
Yeah. All things can be overcome with that, I think. So what do you think, Ellen, about sustainable energy future going on in the region? How do you think E.ON plays a role in that future, and how do you think that the region kind of supports that?
Yeah, well, as everyone knows, we are in the middle of this huge energy transition, of course, and that is driven by the climate ambitions, as I mentioned before, and also urbanization, and of course electrification. And the electrification particularly it's strong, but it's really necessary. But that it's happening a lot on the transport sector and in the industry sector, and also if you go outside of Sweden, in the built environment, going from gas to electricity, heating, for example. And at the same time, we have more and more renewable energy coming into the system. And that is a big challenge. So I think we need to really work with the flexibility approach, to get more intermittent renewable electricity into the system. I mean, unfortunately, in Sweden, at least, it's been quite a polarized debate between nuclear or renewables. But I really think we need a mixture of the different sources, a mixture of different solutions to reach the decarbonization we need to do in the system. So, and E.ON, of course, wants to be a part of that development. And we see ourselves as a driver of the energy transition, really. We want to be in the leader seat.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And can you maybe give an example of a specific project or something along those lines of something happening in Greater Copenhagen?
Yeah, we have had several projects within Greater Copenhagen cooperating between Swedish and Danish municipalities. We have had one called Smart Cities Accelerator, where we, for example, looked into both more system centralized energy solutions and into decentralized solutions, and to new kind of, I wouldn't call it business models, but models like energy communities, for example, and models to allocate renewable energy to different city districts and try to get as much renewable electricity production as we can in city districts itself. So that's a very interesting project. It's finalized already, but we have one going on now called Be Flexible also, that is really focusing on the flexibility perspective of the energy system. It would be really interesting to follow that project.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll try to also link to these in the show notes, of course. And what kind of partnerships do you usually work with? Like, you work together with the municipalities, of course. But what other kind of partnerships do you usually form?
Yeah, well, it's often the more quadruple helix structure that we try to form, of course. So we can be both a solution owner, but we're also like the system operator. So we always try to cooperate, or almost always, to a region or a municipality, but then also universities, of course. And we have really good experience of working with the Danish Technical University, for example. So that is one. And then there are a lot of networks that we work with as well. I mean, who gather a lot of smaller companies that can use our solutions or be a solution owner themselves into projects. So
yeah, absolutely. Thanks for telling us more details on that. Rikke, I know that you work a lot in kind of this built environment in Greater Copenhagen, and Ellen touched on this as well. Of course, this is related to the energy transition and so many other aspects that are going on. Can you speak a little bit about where you see the future of the built environment headed in Greater Copenhagen?
Yes, I strongly believe, and I also hope so, that the Greater Copenhagen will be the region that you will think of when you think green transition or front runners, and that we can kind of be the place to be if you want to be ahead of the others, or if you want to learn. So that there's so much going on here, and we are front runners in many ways. And I think that would have a pull effect on many companies. So they want to be here to learn, or maybe they have something new to bring to the market where there's a lot of activity around a certain business area. So, and there's also a lot of challenges here, but I think the industry is very brave, and we are building circular. We are transforming more and not building a lot of new things. So things are just, I think that's also a stronghold of the region, that we do things. We don't wait. We just do it. Sometimes people think it's naive, but we just need to move. And there are new regulations in Denmark about LCA analysis and measuring the CO2 emissions. And you see really things going very fast at the moment. So the market is transforming, and a lot of other countries are looking to the north. It goes for the whole of Nordic, you can say, building very sustainable and with new materials and testing out, and it's but there's speed in society, and that's what I really like, and that's what you can hear also from the world. Whoa, it's so fast. Things are going fast in the Nordics or in the region here.
Yeah, I hear that often as well. What kind of companies do you think are needed in Greater Copenhagen to really support that and make things move even faster and really get more of these innovations into the public sector? What kind of companies do you think Greater Copenhagen needs?
I don't think all of everything. So we need to the ecosystem needs to be bigger, because we actually do work together. So more architects, more technical companies. We just need to grow, and we need to work together. And this is also something that I think we're good at here, because we trust each other. We can actually work together. So, but also I think, the ecosystem needs to grow, and we need to reach out to counterparts and to work together in order to overcome the challenges and
makes sense. So Ellen, I'm wondering if you can if you have any more stories or anecdotes or anything else like that to tell us about your experience working in Greater Copenhagen.
Yeah, my memory is not that long, so I'll take a really recent example, because we are part of this innovation hub for intelligent and flexible energy systems that is led by Greater Copenhagen and also by DTU, the Danish Technical University. And we've been part of that since it was initiated from E.ON's side. And it's taken some time, and we have built relations quite some time, but it opens up opportunities for us to get involved in both Danish and Swedish side. So last month we were actually invited to be a challenge owner on this by design event, which I really would like to give a shout out to, because it was a really interesting and fun event where we, as a challenge owner, came with a challenge that we wanted solutions to, and during an afternoon they gathered different designers from different design agencies and put their heads around our challenges and try to get some ideas for solutions. And I was pretty impressed on how far they could come up with how far they could actually come with a specific solution in only like 2-3 hours time. So I thought that was quite inspirational, and we got that possibility by working together for some time and building relationships. So I think it's really important, even if you don't see something directly, to just keep the network going and find opportunities along the way.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. Rikke, so we, as most people, I guess, know, we've actually Babel established in Copenhagen with your help as well. And of course, for us, it's always interesting. And I know for so many companies that are looking for opportunities and seeing, okay, how can our solutions meet the actual challenges within the market? What can you give us any insider tips on anything interesting coming in the future in Greater Copenhagen?
Well, I can mention that Copenhagen is at the moment the world's capital of architecture, so there will be a huge event coming up in Copenhagen the first week of July, the UAI World Congress. So that's really huge for the city, but also for the whole of the region, because it's not only about Denmark as such. It's also about sustainable architecture and also to leave no one behind. So there's so much more related to that Congress. So that's a thing coming up. What else? I think that's it. What I can think of as for now. You need to cut.
If you
cut that out.
If you come up with anything else, we'll put it in the open floor. So, maybe to you, Ellen. I'm wondering if so this is really a smart city podcast, right? We usually take a quite holistic approach in how we're looking at these different topics. Of course, right now we're talking more about the economic development of a region, but I'm wondering what you think about in terms of smart cities, how you see Greater Copenhagen's role on the international scale developing, what needs to happen in the region in your perspective as far as the energy transition goes, et cetera, to meet our lofty climate goals. Can you make that connection a little bit with maybe more of these smart city topics?
Yeah, well, I think we really need to go from those lofty goals, as you say. I mean, there are some great ambitions in these regions, as we touched, but we really need to go from ambitions to action. We see that we need to go to implementation phase, and that's of course a bit tricky, and there are always some obstacles when you go to implementation, but I think we need to really pass those. I think I have a good example that I can share that adds on to the built environment that Rikke also mentioned. It's in Malmö we have this network that has been gathering around 200 actors within the building sector, and it's a market-driven network with the ambition to have a climate neutral building sector by 2030. And if you think about that, because it's the entire chain, it's the entire value chain that's going to be climate neutral by 2030. That's a really ambitious goal. And on the way to 2030, they have a goal to 2025 to have at least started one project that is climate neutral. So that's a lot of things happening within that network, and I think that network also is like a role model for how Sweden is going to take on the building sector, and perhaps that is something that other countries can look at as well, because we develop a lot of different ways to calculate and how to look at different parts of the building phase, circularity, business models. I mean, there are so many things to dig into, and E.ON as well has signed this into this agreement, and we also need to do a climate neutral building project. Perhaps that could be a district heating part of the district heating grid or something. So I think that will be really interesting to see now into implementation phase how that will actually work. Because those projects work start now.
Ellen, are you talking about the LFM 30?
Yes.
Or yes, I discovered that network a couple of weeks ago actually, and I think it's absolutely fantastic. And that's just another example of how we work together. I just literally called them, and now we work together. And I was introducing a company last week towards the network and with a solution. And if it goes through, this company will be offered to expose their project towards 200 or 250 in that network. So it's just really, really, it was such a good experience to discover this network just on the other side of the grid. And that is true that you are really, really advanced also in terms of the ambitions and moving the industries on the Swedish side. So yeah. Great.
Yeah, wonderful. With that, I would love to also open the floor a little bit more now. Is there anything else that we didn't touch on that you think it's really important for our listeners to know about Greater Copenhagen or the energy transition or any of the other topics that we touched on or maybe didn't touch on today? Do you have anything that in your mind that you really want to get out there? Or any questions for each other?
I think I can also add that the companies coming here, I think they also come because it is actually very easy to do business in not only in this region but in the Nordics. There's a high degree of digitalization, so it's just very easy to start up a company and to get started in the society. Also because we have very flat hierarchies, you can call anyone or you can get in touch with people very easily. So I think it's a society with a lot of trust and very little corruption, and it just is attractive for many companies. Also that we have this work-life balance. You don't work all the time. You also have a family, so there's a good balance between your professional life and your family life. And I also think in terms of talent that we can actually, even though there's a lack of talent in society in generally speaking, but I think there's a lot of talent in the region also due to the different universities we have on the Swedish side, on the Danish side. But in general, I think there's a lot of talent, and in particular within green transition and green industries. So yeah, just to be mentioned.
Yeah, absolutely. We've definitely experienced that too. This ease of working and getting connected. The ecosystem of Copenhagen is really incredible. So, what about you, Ellen? Do you have any questions for Rikke or anything else that you really want to put out there about the work that you do?
Yeah, well, something that I really think quite a lot about is that I think it's really important that we don't try to get through this situation we are in by just adding technical solutions. I mean, I think it's really important to try to cooperate smarter and try to use our resources wisely. Perhaps it's not a battery that is the answer to the question. Perhaps it is using less power capacity at certain time points. You can do it in another way than adding new technical equipment. So I think it's important to really get to the bottom of saving power capacity and saving energy. And I mean, in that context, I also, before when I worked at the city of Malmö, I worked a lot with industrial and urban symbiosis. And within that, I actually had a question to Rikke because we worked quite a lot trying to understand how we could attract certain companies or businesses depending on which resources they had available. I mean, if they have certain resources, they could actually fit better into the business flora of Malmö, for example. And I was curious about if they do anything in that area on the Copenhagen side, trying to get like this perfect mixture of companies that could actually be more resource efficient together and create synergies between them.
And there's a beauty example of that in Kalundborg, a little bit outside of Copenhagen, actually, where you have a symbiosis, companies sharing energy, companies sharing all they can, all kind of energy related sources. They share that, and it's big industry. So it's like Novo Nordisk and other companies like that. So that's something that we use as a showcase for a lot of international guests. We will go there and show them how you can do energy sharing and how you see industries working together in order to save costs, save energy, and in order to also to act more climate in line with the climate questions and climate targets. So yeah. Kalundborg symbiosis.
Yeah, that's
a
really
small city, but
example, yeah.
yeah.
Really great example. So with that, then I'll basically get on to the fun segment now. So I hope you're ready. It's one of my favorite segments. It's called Roll with the Punches. Roll with the punches. Answer this or that questions quickly and with your first instincts. So actually, since there's two of you, I will ask a question, this or that question, and then Rikke, you will answer first, and then Ellen, you answer directly afterwards. Either you agree with her or you don't agree with her. So, so are you ready?
Yes.
Ellen's not sure yet, but you'll get it. You'll get it. Don't worry. Good. Rikke, this one I did just for you. If Copenhagen were an animal, would it be a dolphin or a lion?
A dolphin.
Ellen? No, then I say lion.
If you don't know what that reference is to, go listen to the first episode. So, iPhone or Android?
iPhone.
iPhone.
Green roofs or vertical gardens?
Green roofs.
Yeah, green roof. Yeah.
Net zero energy retrofitting or new build net zero energy buildings?
The first one.
Yeah, the retrofits. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Regions or cities?
Regions.
Cities.
Sweden or Denmark?
Sweden.
Denmark. Yeah.
Oh, you picked the opposites that I thought you would. Oh, good. Would you like to explain any of your answers? The green roofs you both chose, right?
Well, I wanted to pick both, actually. I think anything green in the city is positive. More trees, more green roofs, more vertical gardens. I think everything is needed. So,
yeah,
you can say that's needed if you want to live. We need to live closer to our value chain of food. We need to have food production closer to the cities. So we need vertical farming, but we also need the green roofs. So it's all needed if you want to.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just my trick making you choose. But oftentimes it's both, I know, is the real answer. Yeah, with the retrofitting, I guess it's better to build from the old that's already there, right? To improve the old than to put a lot of new materials into a building. Is that where your mind is at?
Yeah, and there are so many buildings that needs to be retrofitted. I mean, there's so many huge areas from the 60s, 70s that really could be perfect for retrofitting.
Yeah. And the other one that you disagreed on was the regions or cities.
Yeah, that's also like a both, but I love cities, so
you can't have one without the other, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, absolutely.
I was driving around in the region yesterday, so I was, it was so beautiful and so nice. So
yeah,
that was why. Yeah, there's so much more than a city also, and the region or the outskirts can offer something completely else than a city.
Yeah,
so,
I really like to talk about regions when we talk about cities. So we say smart cities, obviously, because it's kind of the easiest terminology. But I always try and add regions and municipalities and towns, and how do we connect better the smaller towns with the bigger cities. I always like to include them in the conversation. So. Agreed there. So I think we're all in agreement, just with different answers. So good. So now we're at our very last question. It's a question that we ask every single guest. Rikke, I'm curious to hear how we can compare your answers from last time. Would you like to go first? It's the question to you. What is a smart city?
Yes. I really can't remember what I answered the last time, but I think it's something with, optimization of city functions in terms of infrastructure, in terms of transport, but any other functions literally. And while you also improve the quality of life for the citizens and by using technologies and data. So that's my definition of a smart city.
Yeah, very good. Ellen? What do you think? Can you expand on it?
Yeah, well, I of course agree with Rikke, but also I would add a keyword, and that is simple, because I think a smart city should be simple to live in. It should be simple to make sustainable choices, to move, and it should be simple if you are an 8-year-old or an 80-year-old. So too much digital solutions perhaps can be difficult for some people. So I think I mean, in Malmö, we have this saying that it should be easy to do the right thing or to make wise choices. It sounds better in Swedish, but I think it sums it up quite well. I mean, it should be easy, effortless to live in a city and to make smart choices. I think that is a smart city.
Very good answer to both of you. So with that, I won't keep you any longer. Thank you for a really lovely episode and for all of your knowledge on these subject topics and also on the region. Rikke, I'm wondering when your third guest visit will be. But until then, thank you both very much. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, truly pleasure. Thank you.
And to all of our listeners, don't forget you can always create a free account on babel-smartcities.eu, and you can find out more about all different kinds of projects going on in other regions and Greater Copenhagen, solutions, implementations, and more. Thank you all for listening. I'll see you at the next stop on the journey to a better urban life.